Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Femme Portfolio Podcast. I'm your co-host, Bryn Bradshaw-Mack.
And I'm Rachel Hirsch. Today, we have the incredible Becca Milstein on. She is the founder and CEO of Fishwife. Becca, will you tell us all about you?
Oh, would be my pleasure. I'm Becca. I'm based in Los Angeles. I'm in a beautiful phone booth at the moment. I'm from New Hampshire. I started working on Fishwife after working in the music industry for 4 years in 2020 with the mission of bringing the beautiful conservative culture that exists in Europe to American consumers. And that's basically what my whole life is.
Amazing. Will you tell us what inspired you to start Fishwife?
Yes, of course. So I lived abroad in Spain in college and was really just blown away by the way that they eat. When you would go out to dinner, you wouldn't get like a square meal as you do in America. You would order, a glass of wine, and then you would be served tapas. So it might be a tin of sardines and some very simple bread and a little bit of olive oil or olives or jamon. And it was just very simple, such an emphasis on the quality of the ingredients, and that's really so much about Spanish and, a lot of Mediterranean cooking, but, really, really easy and felt very elevated and nutritious. So that happened. And then during the COVID-19 pandemic, just had this huge light bulb moment that there's this very large, nearly $4 billion category in America. I didn't know that at the time. Now I do. But, everyone in America is familiar with canned seafood. We all grew up eating canned tuna, mostly in tuna fish sandwiches, etc. That was my only exposure. And the category was just completely commodified and had never been premiumized. And anytime you see a category like that in the grocery aisles, like a big alarm bell should go off in your head. There are very few at this point. Yeah, it's just like, wow, no one has innovated in this category and no one has premiumized it. Like, it's seafood. It shouldn't be $1 per can. It should garner a higher price than that because of, the quality of the fish and the sustainability of the sourcing. And just the culinary benefits that can come from really high quality tin fish. So anyway, thought it was a huge opportunity. I was totally blown away that it hadn't happened and started working on it immediately after that light bulb moment.
I love that.
Light bulb moment. I was going to say, I'm a huge fan of canned fish in general, and I do think that what you speak to is so accurate about there should be a premium offering, because that's always a big hesitation for me, is like flipping over the cans, doing the research on like what the quality you're looking for should be. What does dolphin safe mean? What does this mean? What does that mean? So actually knowing that you have a brand that has those standards baked in and there's no like compromising and people can just go to your brand and know they're going to get that quality is exceptional. How did you actually go from like the 0 to 1? Because that's clearly a very specific product, and I'm sure the supply is a challenging element. So what were the steps to getting started?
Yeah, the steps were came up with the idea at the end of April and then began about a month of conversations with any entrepreneur I could find. So thankfully, the college that I went to had a lot of really incredible entrepreneurs come out of it recently, and in the food space in particular. So like the founder of Imperfect Foods, Ben Chesler, he and I were on the student-run theater board together. The founder of Sir Kensington's went to Brown, which is where I went to college, a few years ahead of me. But basically, I was super, super fortunate to have these people like, an arm's length away to, get in touch with and ask them, how do I go about starting this business? Like, obviously, before you start a business, you have literally no idea what the hell to do. What does incorporation mean? Like, do I have to raise money? Do I not? Like, you have literally no idea. So these calls were like very foundational. How does one go about starting a business? So kind of went through that first month of advisory conversations and decided to incorporate the business and kind of came up with an idea to get a proof of concept that there was demand for this. And the idea was started reaching out to, the supply chain part of this conversation is definitely the craziest and most janky. Literally was just Googling in Spanish to find Spanish canneries
This is amazing.
and like texting people I knew from like the central coast of California being like, do you know any commercial fishermen? Like, so there was kind of I was having these two conversations. One was on email to like Spanish and Portuguese canneries, which were, it's finding a co-man there's no easy way to do it, is the reality. And for people that don't know, like a co-man is a co-manufacturer. Most CPG, or consumer packaged goods companies work with a co-manufacturer unless they're vertically integrated. For Fishwife, that wasn't a possibility because canning is not necessarily easy to do in a home or commercial kitchen. So kind of started looking for cannery partners right away. And that was the supply chain element, was like literally getting in touch with fishermen. Like eventually a fisherman from California put me in touch with a cannery in Oregon, and that was our first North American cannery.
Whoa.
And then eventually found a cannery in Spain that had an MOQ of 25,000 units as opposed to like 200,000 units to start with. So
All those numbers sound so big. Did that scare you at first, or you were just like, I got this?
I mean, 200,000 certainly scared me. 25,000? So we did this test. This is kind of how it went. It was so silly. We did this test where we took samples that we were trying from these Spanish canneries and basically put Fishwife branding on them. So about 2 months after coming up with the idea for the company, I found a illustrator named Danny Miller, who actually I was on the phone with before this, and he's just this totally brilliant artist and person, and we started building the brand together. So we had these like key brand elements. Those came very quickly, like the name Fishwife, the visual identity, etc., came very, very quickly. And so we did this test where we sold 100 units of these samples in this Fishwife branded box and Fishwife branded wrapping. And there was just so much enthusiasm for it. So basically, your question, Rachel, about being scared, for sure. But like this initial market test was very, very helpful. And then I started working with the canneries in North America, which had much lower MOQs because they only work with like sports fishermen. They're not, the canneries we work with in Europe are much, much larger, and they were willing to do, I think our first order was 2,000 units of tuna and 700 units of salmon. And so like got to sort of build up to that 25,000 unit.
That's exceptional. Were there moments where in that like R&D research, even in the discovery cadence, talking to other Brown students, where you felt discouraged to continue, or were you pretty gung-ho on keeping at it?
I was like, nothing was gonna deter me from this. It just wasn't gonna happen. So no, I had a friend, a really, really smart friend and advisor, suggest, just becoming an importer of tin fish and as a test and seeing what the demand was there. But I was like, no, this is so much gonna have to do with a new brand. Brand visuals, brand identity, brand voice. Like it's not gonna generate the movement that I think is possible unless there's a new brand affixed to it. So it wasn't discouraging, but was like, would that be a good idea? And I think what we did was ultimately the right thing.
Clearly. This is sort of random, but how did you decide what fish to start with?
It's a great question. It's a really good question. Some of these things, you have limiting factors in that we were going to have to start working with North American canneries first in order to hit the timeline that we were looking to hit. And they can't do, for example, sardines, anchovies. It's just not, the canning lines are not like set up to accommodate, the format that those species require. So it was kind of like, okay, we're either going to do the tuna, salmon, mussels. I think that those are the main three. But I wanted to start with products we started with smoked tuna and smoked salmon, which are just like the American palate loves salt, loves sweet, loves flavor. So I thought, and like the European products that are most popular in the premium tinned fish space in the US, they're basically none of them are smoked because most European and particularly Spanish and Portuguese canneries do not have smoking capabilities. So anyway, like in North America, there are more smoking capabilities in these tiny canneries, and it just seemed like a product that everyone would love. Yeah, so
The things you didn't know before starting Fishwife about smoking capabilities, canning capabilities.
I feel like I didn't know anything before starting life.
It's really interesting what you said about like wanting to continue persevering on creating the brand and really having that brand identity. The brand has such a beautiful and very unique brand identity. So I'm curious what that process was like in terms of, was it very iterative? Did you have a vision going in?
Oh yeah, it was and continues to be my favorite part of my job. So had a very clear vision for what I wanted it to look like, which was, inspired by Portuguese and Spanish classic conservas, but, modernized while maintaining a sense of timelessness, which is obviously what everyone wants to achieve with their brand, is having sort of that feeling of timelessness. So it was, those were very inspirational. And then there were a couple brands that were really inspirational to me as well. So like Topo Chico, Cafe Bustelo, and McKellar Beer. Those are 3 brands that I just think are so beautiful. And, McKellar is a really good example of a modern brand with a obviously modern illustrator, but it still feels really, really timeless. So those were sort of like the on the mood board for sure. And definitely was thinking like very primary color driven, kind of like very simple illustrations. And so brought that to Danny, who is a super versatile artist, but definitely like is super strong on like thick black outline sort of graphic, sort of like classic American tattoo style drawings, which was just perfect. So yeah, I mean, if you see our packaging from 2020, you're like, or I am like, wow, this looks like not great. But obviously that's because Danny has, in spending 30, 40 hours of his week in the Fishwife universe, like his skill set in this brand specifically has just flowered and become so much more refined and just gorgeous. So yeah, it's really iterative. Like I think because, and then I'll shut up. I could talk about this for a very long time.
We love this. We want more.
But because we work with a illustrator, a person, we don't, at least as far as I can tell, we don't have to lock ourselves into as many like brand rules, or at least that's what I tell myself. Like, because he is like the consistent hand behind the brand, even if we really change things up, it will still feel like Fishwife. So I think one of the fun parts of me and Danny's job is that like we will go through different stylistic eras at Fishwife. So like 2023, for example, was, what is it called? Okay, like pop art where it has like those little dots. Halftone. I forgot what that was called. But basically, like 2023 was just like halftone year where like everything we did had a halftone on it, and now we never do it again. And like this year is like blue year because we're putting out our cookbook, which is blue, so like everything is gonna feel very, very blue. But yeah, that's kind of like one of the best parts of working with Danny, is that we can give ourselves the freedom to like continue to evolve without fear that people will be like, what brand is this? I'm confused. I hope.
Yes, I love that. It's like as humans, we evolve each year, like people, we evolve each year. So that makes so much sense for a brand of personality to evolve each year.
Exactly. And it just keeps it feeling fresh. Yeah.
It definitely feels fresh while being very concrete in terms of this is the brand. Like I feel like it's the item where if you're walking down an aisle, you could spot it from halfway down the aisle. And you've done so in a way where like maybe originally primary colors, now it's so colorful, but it's still so clearly that your brand. And I think that's what's exceptional because it allows you to go in a lot of different directions. I love having like anchor colors to each product and like having those really stand out. Was really curious. I saw the cookbook. I saw some other complimentary items that you guys are offering and was curious to see where you want to expand in that direction.
Well, we love merch. Or yeah, we always have like collaborated with small artists, etc., to create limited edition products like that. We used to do it. I mean, we still do it a ton, but like first year we did like 35 collaborations with independent female identifying artists, which was so amazing, but like such a insane thing to do because it's like I do not have an ROI necessarily. Um, but so the cookbook is really great because, a huge part of our job at Fishwife is just education and category repositioning, and like education on use case specifically because yeah, most of us grew up thinking tuna fish sandwiches, tuna casserole is great, and we're here being like pastas and rice bowls and onigiri and snack plates and like all this crazy stuff. And so the cookbook is like the ultimate educational tool to help further that mission of use case education. And then yeah, I mean we have a lot of fun stuff in store this year. We very much like to have merch items that either like are just great merch pieces, like our hats.
The hat is awesome. I saw that.
Yeah,
And
we have
yeah.
they're like such good hats. They're such high quality hats. Like once you have one, you only will wear that hat. Like all of my friends, every time I like go on a hike with friends, everyone shows up wearing Fishwife hats and it's like we're in some weird
Whoa.
world because
That's
they're just so great. But then other things that just like reinforce how we want you to use the product.
That's
or
what I was
what-
going to ask, like how that transition has been, because the cookbook and seeing recipes on the website, so creative. Has that been a big focal point to get people away from just eating them straight out of the can or eating them as a snack or eating them as their lunch to actually like creating recipes around it? And what's that process been like?
Yeah, we don't mind when people just eat it straight from the tin. Like that's a huge benefit.
Sorry.
I mean, no, it is, and this kind of shocks me every time. It's far and away the biggest use case for our customers.
It's just so good, like plain as is. Like I don't need anything else.
Exactly. And that is how we think about R&D. It's like, okay, it has to be able to work in a multitude of use
Right.
cases, but also just straight out of the can, which is unique. Like obviously most people aren't eating like Starkist straight out of the can. Like a very intense macro regimen. But yeah, so does that answer your question? I actually can't.
Yeah, no, I was just curious, like from your perspective, is the goal to continue to push clients to customers to expand their use cases? And is that like the real driving force behind the cookbook? Is it more just brand awareness? Like that
Yeah,
really?
I think it's just helping, obviously the goal is to help people integrate tin fish into their diets as much as possible. Of course, our key business goal. But so yeah, and I think a lot of people some people really just don't know what to do with it. And they don't realize that you can make like a really gorgeous rice bowl, which is mostly what I eat, or a really beautiful pasta with like 3 ingredients. So it's just helping our customer understand how it can make their life easier. So instead of, freezing and thawing a chicken and then marinating it and da. You can just pop it open. I know because I do it like 5 times a week.
Love that.
I'm arguably your best customer at the minute. But you mentioned a little bit about, I'm sure there's a lot of us, but you mentioned a little bit about R&D. Can we double tap into that a bit? Just curious in terms of product line expansion. You launched caviar, which is like so cool and sexy. But how do you think about that? How do you know you're ready for something? I know you send out a lot of surveys about like what other fish, but we like give us some more details there.
Totally. Yeah. R&D innovation is such a fun part of the business. Jack, our head of ops and employee number 1 at Fishwife, now really leads this part of the business with such acumen. So yeah, I mean the process, we do a ton of customer surveying. The process of deciding what we're going to pursue on the R&D side is a combination of, it's a ton of research. So it's like the inputs that we're looking at are retail data, like, okay, what are the flavors and the species that we see either growing already or, there's just a really big gap and opportunity. So we'll look at that and then we'll do customer surveying. So like we usually do at the beginning of the year, like a big survey that's like, okay, here are all the species. What species do you want to see us work on next? What flavor profiles do you want to see us work on next? Like all of that, and get so much good information from there. And we really use that to direct us. We obviously have our own POV as a team, but we definitely listen to our customers and listen to market data. So yeah, it's like from those key inputs, and then we just set about on the R&D process, which, on that road, a lot of possibilities will cancel themselves out because you realize, okay, actually we just can't make a hot honey tin fish because honey incinerates itself in the retort cooker. So like these will just come off the R&D page as you start to test, and then very, very long period of refining, the products. And then, we do multiple rounds of sending products out to tasters, tasting them internally. It's quite a to-do, I must say.
How does one become a taster?
Right. The tasters are usually, first of all, we can't send it, I'm amazed when brands can do like tastings to 100 people or whatever. It's a lot of work. It's expensive you have to mail things out to all these people. So we usually do like between 20 and 40 tasters. And that's a combination of, people with more like refined palates that maybe do this professionally that are our content creators.
I hear you.
And then
You got it.
That's half. And then the other half are really avid tasters. So Rachel, if you want to, we have to. Do you like mussel?
I love mussels.
I'll even come pick it up from your house. Like there will be no cost involved. I'll pay you to be a tester. Like count me in, friend.
I would love you to be a tester. Okay. putting you on.
Sign me up.
We're about to do
These
a
are the
round,
moments
so
where
get ready.
being on the other side of the country does not serve in my best interest.
This is good. This is just helpful to get Bryn to move to LA.
Exactly. One of the
That's
many.
what this calls.
I think you mentioned content creators. Are you going through your social platforms and getting customer feedback that way? Are you using that as an engagement strategy? Or are you more like, let's just turn on like social brand connecting and not worry so much on like trying to get feedback through posts and stuff?
No, that's a really great question. We use social to find those really ardent customers who will become tasters. So like, the people that end up being tasters are the ones that are like posting
Yep.
salads and rice bowls and hand rolls, da da da. Like Lauren, who is our brand marketing manager who runs social, she's so tuned into who those people are. And then she gets their email and we do the surveying over email. But then we use social for quick questions on mostly merch development. So we have like a close friends group on Instagram that will be like, okay, which design do you like on this hat more? And they'll be like, everyone likes this one more. And we're like, okay, great, we'll do that.
That's fun.
I
And then
love that you
some,
do
what'd you say,
No,
Bryn?
you finish and then I'll say.
No, like, I think your question's really good. It's like we do a ton of surveying through email about like nitty gritty, this is like a 20, 40 question survey. But on social, we'll do like, what do you want to see more of from us this year? What do you think of this hat, t-shirt, whatever? And sometimes it'll be for everyone and sometimes it'll be for close friends if it's like something that's, we don't want to reveal yet to everyone.
That's incredible. I think that's a great strategy and like you covering your bases. Rachel and I recorded an episode that should come out next week on consumer views versus investor views in brands and like brand trajectory. And one thing we were talking about is the more a brand can show its like behind the scenes and true self and personality in a social and, on social platforms and in front of customers, it just allows for so much connectivity. So I think that's awesome that you guys are doing that because it's such a nice way to like truly get to know the brand beyond just the products.
Totally.
But
Like
another way
so intimate.
Another way that you did that was your collaboration with Klaviyo and doing a store in New York, which is the coolest thing in the world, especially like incredible for an early stage business to be able to do something of that magnitude. I think just speaks volumes to you and the brand you've built. Can you tell us more about that?
Oh my gosh,
And
yes.
will you come to LA?
Yes, this is the best time of my whole life. It makes me a bit emotional. So we, at the beginning of 2024, the team had our annual offsite, and it was really kind of funny and amazing. We did a creative brainstorming session where we were ideating our 2024 holiday products, which is obviously a big thing for us. And then a pop-up, what that would look like. And so we did this like brainstorm session and, we came up with both teams, we split into two teams, both teams proposed doing caviar for the holidays. So automatic winner.
Cool.
And
Honestly.
then, we ideated this pop-up, basically got it's something that I've always wanted to do, but with these heavier lift brand marketing activations, it's a ton of work and the ROI isn't always immediately evident. So needed to make sure the team was, bought in or was interested in doing this and all agreed that it was worth our time. So did that. We all felt, okay, we're really interested in doing this pop-up. And I reached out to Klaviyo because we love Klaviyo, their email and SMS partner. And I had met a couple of their team members at various events and dinners. And I knew that one of their co-founders was a big fan. And so they, after a couple months, agreed to sponsor the pop-up. And then that partnership really just exploded into, it was the pop-up, but then it became a nationwide TV commercial on live and streaming, and then a huge out-of-home campaign in New York and LA, and a whole podcast advertising campaign as well. It was just a huge highlight in the whole 4 years of the business's life. It was really stood out as a highlight.
Does that inspire you? I know you said you did a whole bunch of collaborations early on and it was pretty taxing and you're not sure on the ROI. Did that leave you inspired to potentially do other events, maybe not at that scale, but other events in the future or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it ended up having like the most insane ROI of any thing that we've ever done. So I think it gave me and the team and, maybe investors, if it ever becomes a conversation there, the confidence to really invest in those brand marketing activities, think really critically about them and get the right partners involved. But if you do that, it can have this massively outsized impact. So I do feel like we really need to keep that experiential component of our company alive, in a thoughtful way. So we're doing our cookbook tour, which is, it's only 5 stops. So yes, Rachel, we will have a very fun party in LA.
Thank goodness.
It's gonna be so fun.
It's gonna be so fun.
But basically just like figure out how to, do these brand marketing activations, but really maximize their impact through various channels and tricks, and just really making sure that everything feels as big or bigger than it is, which is the ultimate marketing.
Absolutely. You had mentioned team, and it made me want to transition over to the process of scaling the team. It sounds like you have an incredible force behind you and you have named so many exceptional people. So, what was that process like of scaling, knowing when to add someone, how it's been growing in that regard?
Yeah, the Fishwife team has like definitely a couple of very defining factors in how it came to be and who these wonderful people are. Everyone but Jack, who is our first full-time employee, other than me, worked at Fishwife for between 6 months, 6 to 18 months in a part-time capacity before coming on full-time, which was a very fortunate, magical situation. Like, that's absolutely not going to be viable long term because obviously we want really top talent, and often top talent is not able to do that because they already have like a very time-consuming job. But it just so happened with like one of them was a consultant before, one of them was kind of the start they're working at was kind of slowing down. One person is just so wildly productive they could just do a little consulting on the side. So but that first group of employees is so important in setting the culture that like I think the company will forever feel the ramifications of them coming on in that way. um and it just resulted in us having a team of very, very, very passionate, bought in, entrepreneurial mindsets. I can't remember how I started that sentence, but
No, that's so interesting. I think that is such a rarity to like for people. It's a two-way street of them getting to know you and the company and the work
Yeah.
style, and you getting to know them and figuring out a lot of those kinks of starting a new job in a lower stress, lower, return on impact environment. And so I think that's a unique setup for sure. And I totally hear what you're saying that you maybe can't sustain that into the future, but that's an exceptional way to grow. And that's really exciting that they all chose to come on full time and they were as committed and bought in as anticipated. So that's wonderful.
You've built an incredible team. That's probably one of the things I admire most about you. But the other thing that I like want you to do a teach me session with is your boundaries. You're so good at setting boundaries. You're one of the kindest, friendliest, like warmest individuals I know, but you're very firm with your boundaries. And I respect it so much. And it's part of, I imagine, you're one of the most highly productive and efficient people I know and just skilled in every way. I imagine that's, I mean, I'm not obsessed with Becca at all. Not at all. But I imagine that your boundaries come and impact that a lot. It's like, how did that come to be? Can you give us advice on how to get there? Like all those things.
totally. Yeah, I mean, I think like when you start to carve out your career path and start to establish a name for yourself, like people will reach out to you all the time, especially when you're, running a company. Obviously, opportunities come in all the time. Um, and I mean, like, yes, you just have to learn to say no. But I think the thing that really holds me to that is honestly just my prioritization of the team and, um, you know, like I answer to the team, like at the end of the day, like more so than anyone else, like they're the people that I answer to. And so I feel that it's my responsibility to them to use my time like as productively as possible so I can support them as much as possible and like be as good a team member to them as I can be. Like if I'm on like a frivolous call, I'm like I can't like if my team first of all we have open calendars, I'm like they're gonna see me on this silly frivolous call. It's completely in my head. They obviously do not care, but I just feel like it's so it's just so important to prioritize just them and being there for them and being as good a partner to them as I can be. So that really guides my boundaries because I'm just like, if I'm on call, first of all, when you're a founder, people reach out to you all the time. And it's actually something that I will take this opportunity to say. It's like, if people say no to you, if founders say no to you to get a call, like, do not take it personally. Like, I think I have, an average of like 25 hours of calls on my calendar every week. And you just can't get on calls unless they are going to have, again, an ROI to the business. Like, it needs to be moving the business forward. So unless a call is going to move the business forward, I basically I won't take it. I try to pay it forward as much as possible with young founders. But there also is like a limit. And I usually do like voice notes and stuff these days if people have asks for advice.
Smart.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think that's so exceptional that you've set that North Star of being available because I think as a founder, and we've interviewed other founders who have said the shift from being the ideator to actually leading people and directing people has been very challenging for some, or maybe just doesn't come as naturally and it's a learned skill and there's so many nuances. And so to
Yeah.
set that boundary of like, as an absolute starting point, if I can just make myself more readily available, I can help them decipher work streams that they're working on, answer questions, brainstorm, etc. Like that's very selfless for someone who sounds exceptionally busy. So I think that's a great tidbit, we can all take away and use in our own practice is whoever does need to come to us and needs our buy-in on their work, like making time, buffering time in your calendar for those people. And it doesn't necessarily need to be being the CEO and founder of a company, but even in day-to-day practice, like carving out that time and then being very discerning with what else you say yes to.
100%. You've got to do it.
That's awesome. What advice do you have for someone who is looking to start a company, whether it's in CPG or just broadly speaking?
Yeah. I think the biggest piece of advice I would give is, for people at the beginning of this journey, like, you just have to look inside yourself and say, do I want to do this for 15 years? Because in many cases, that's what it will be. Like, if you look at the Spindrift exit that just happened, that's a 15-year journey. I don't know. I think Simple Mills probably a similar 10 to 15-year journey. And I think the investor community, I'm interested to hear what Rachel has to say about this. Like, there were maybe illusions in 2020, 2021 of like, this is going to be a 5-year exit. Like 5-year, I mean, it happens, I guess, but like not a lot. So, I mean, don't start a business to exit it. Like, that's absolutely psychotic. It will not work. Like, it just won't work. You won't be able to work 90 hours a week for, again, 5, 10, 15 years for that exit. And it will be a horrible motivator for your team. So that's the first thing. I doubt that many people have illusions about that these days, that they're gonna get rich quick off a CPG business.
You'd be surprised.
But that's the thing. That's what I say to people that are starting this business, starting in this industry. I'm just like, if it's what you want to do, it is literally the best job in the entire world. But you have to really, really, really want to do it, and you really have to want to do it for like at least 10 years. So that's what I tell people. And it has scared at least 3 off, which I'm very happy about. I'm like,
Yeah, it's not a bad outcome.
It's not about it. Like, I've watched many entrepreneurs spend, 6 months, a year, like doing diligence on this decision and really getting things up and running, and then just saying, okay, you know what? I'm not going to do it because, at some point, likely you will think about taking investment, and you have a fiduciary duty when you take investment. It's like, you have to believe that you can return money to these people, and these institutions. So, like, it is your responsibility to make that assessment, before you start a business, which I probably didn't do that much of when I was 26 and like, what is investing? But I think that's
But there's no better steward from our capital than you, honestly. Like, you, even just you saying that and the way you think about it, the way you think about your team, I trust you infinitely. And so you might not have thought about it in the beginning, but there's clearly a quality in you that shined through that made us trust.
not
Yeah.
only the 15-year, that stands out to me as someone who is constantly coming up with ideas and thinking about what, like, I feel like I'm a serial entrepreneur in my mind, not in practice, but 15 years is a long time horizon. So I think that letting that sink in, it's sinking in for me real time and hopefully listeners, but also the 90 hours, which I can attest to coming from, I started my career in investment banking and like the perpetual grind was exhausting, especially when you're doing it for someone else. To do it for yourself, if you have conviction, I'm sure feels different. But I think that it speaks to, from the outside, I hear so many people talk about being so eager to do their own thing. I'm an entrepreneur. I want my own brand and I have my own schedule. I'm like, that last part is maybe I think you're missing the mark there. So hearing that straight from you, and we've heard other founders say that too, it's like, it's quite the opposite. This isn't giving you a whole bunch of freedom. This is quite literally going to be most of your life. And you have to be very bought in on that shift in experience.
Yeah. And if you are, it truly is like, it is my absolute greatest pleasure in my entire life to do this business. So if people see that for themselves, then I would say 100% pursue it. But yeah, interrogate that
With
for
a
sure.
very good disclaimer. That's awesome. What's next for Fishwife? I know you said the cookbook tour. That sounds incredible, but what else is going on?
So much fun stuff. Yeah, I mean, last year was a really huge year for the business because there were just a lot of big firsts and like foundational moments. We expanded tremendously into retail. We went from 1,800 to 5,000. I mean, it's not like we're not in 25,000 doors, but we went from 1,800 to 5,000 doors.
Let's not minimize that. Sorry. Like, what?
It was a great amount of doors, shepherded by Pierre, our head of sales, who is absolutely incredible. But so that was, our nationwide expansion. So this is the year that we'll really build upon that and sort of take it to the next level. Last year was like, okay, we're getting in the doors, we're making sure it works. Now we get to like build upon that and take it to the next level. At D2C and Amazon, it's really fun. It's a 4-channel business for D2C, Amazon, direct independent, like specialty grocers, and then like distributed wholesale. And we just have so many projects going on in all of those channels. So, for D2C, we are continuing to optimize for subscription there and gifting because we see both of those things be very successful on D2C. For Amazon, I mean, Amazon like massively surpassed our expectations for last year. So this year we're just trying to be prepared for it and keep iterating on all of those lessons we learned for the first time last year. Like we found out what seasonality looks like on Amazon, which we had no idea. We found out what, promotion, the impact of promotions, like Prime Days would be for us, etc. So there's that. And then we have a couple new team members. We have Mallory, who's retail marketing and sales, which is really exciting because she can do a ton more evolution of our retail marketing activations. And then we have a new head of growth coming in a couple weeks, and she's absolutely brilliant. And I think she will add a massive dimensionality to the e-com channel. So anyway, again, I'm like, I talk about all these things for hours and hours, but like
We love it.
at a high level, like that's so a lot of new products and just, yeah, on the business side, having the ability to plan further and further out so we can do a better and better job. So much
The
fun.
multi-channel approach is so smart because I think what happens with a lot of specialty brands is you come across them. Like for me, I'm Williamsburg based. It's all these fun grocery stores and little specialty stores, and I'll come across something and then it's actually finding it again. So knowing that you can go to Amazon and set up a subscription and have your regular cadence is huge. I thought of a story. I literally giggled as you said Amazon and I was trying to bite my tongue, but my brother one year, I asked everyone what they wanted for Christmas and he sent me this Google link to a specialty can of sardines. And I literally thought, I didn't think anything of it. I thought, okay, you came across this on a trip. It was some European brand and this is what he wants. So I go looking for it. I find it on Amazon. I ordered from Amazon what I thought was one can and it was very expensive. So that should have completely like very expensive. It comes to my house, a huge 12 pack, but not tins, cans. And in the transport, the cans opened and it was sardines. It was fish. So I get this huge package of 12 cans of fish, some of which have opened. Literally made my apartment smell for maybe 2 months.
You brought it inside? That is your mistake, my friend.
I didn't know until I opened the box. Like it smelled, but I was like, oh, maybe they're just fragrant. Then I opened the box and it's like fish oil literally going everywhere. The final remark on this story is one of the cans, I'm sure others, one of the glass jars was salvageable. I bring it to him for Christmas and he said, That was a joke. You were being so annoying about what you wanted to give me for Christmas that I just sent you the most random thing I could find. I cannot believe you found it.
That's a younger brother.
I'm so.
That is a younger brother.
You're like, I spent $600 on broken cans of
I can attest that Fishwife comes perfectly every time. I've ordered it literally from every channel. I've gone to the grocery, I've gone to a specialty store, I've ordered it on Amazon, I've ordered it from them online. It has come perfectly every time, and I eat it literally once a day. So 10 out of 10, not recommend.
Your R&D on the actual packaging is spot on. To do glass jar lid with some oils, just a no-go. But I had to share that story because
glass is just,
my
we've
experience.
thought about doing glass at various times, and it's just like the juice is not worth the squeeze.
Quite literally.
Fish juice.
Oh my God. Good.
Oh, this is so good.
This has been so fun. Thank you, Becca. So
Yeah.
we like to wrap episodes with a few fiery, typically one word, but they end up being one sentence. Just gonna kick them off. What is something that you can't live without?
Running.
Ooh,
Really?
love that.
I didn't know that.
I'm right there with you, sis.
Big time. Hard.
Oh.
This air situation.
Aye.
Yeah.
Are you like into the trying to sign up for runs game, or is this more like solo quest?
It's just a solo, yeah. Solo, like you get the outdoors time, the meditation, the like education. I like listen to podcasts, so it's very just fits in well with the lifestyle.
Love that.
But who is someone you admire most?
That's so, it's like all my team members. We're like doing reviews right now. Excuse me. And my team members are such hard workers, and they like blow me away. So I'm gonna go with all the Fishwife employees.
That's so awesome. I love to hear. What keeps you grounded?
My fiance, Pete, whenever I'm like being a drama queen, he's like, shut up, Becca, you're so silly.
Wait, can we sidebar there on how is it with wedding planning meets all you're doing for the company?
So valid.
I am like not allowing myself to spend a lot of time on wedding planning. So like, for example, I did our wedding website on Notion, which is also our project management tool.
Whoa.
I'll send it to you. You can look at it. Rachel.
You're like,
Yeah.
broken, don't fix it. You know what
I
you've
love
done. Why
Yeah,
not?
it's just like no paper invitations. It's just like this is where you need to be and when.
I love this.
So keeping it very low maintenance.
I love it. What makes you feel wealthy?
Wealthy. What makes me feel wealthy?
I can take that any which way. We've had a lot of interpretations of that word.
Oh my gosh. What makes me feel wealthy? Staying at a nice hotel.
That definitely makes me feel
I
wealthy.
stayed in a nice hotel. I haven't stayed in a nice hotel until last year. And I was
What hotel was it?
I was like hosting this Portugal trip thing.
Oh.
So it was called Infante Sangres in Porto. And it was just like a really nice hotel, and I was like, I am a wealthy woman. I have like my bathrobe on, and I was like, this is the height of luxury. So yeah, hotel rooms.
I love this.
Which I didn't learn this about myself because it's not.
Okay, something to strive for.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm like, this is my thing that I will strive for, is being able to afford staying in a nice hotel.
I love this.
And what is something that few people know about you?
Oh gosh. What do people, I mean, everyone that I knew before the age of 22, I was like a big musical theater person.
I love that.
But none of my business friends know that. So, and it was like the biggest part of my life until, yeah.
Like, are there videos out there that you want to share?
Don't look. Don't look.
Okay. Honestly, this has been such a highlight, especially after like the heaviness of the past few weeks. What a special thing to spend an hour with you. So thank you for making this time, making us laugh and smile. Honestly, such an honor.
Such a pleasure. And Rachel, I'm sorry that we couldn't do this in person. My goddamn boundaries.
I was like the most perfect thing to come out of your mouth. I was like, I respect it. I do every time.
I so appreciate you in so many ways in that very much. So yeah, thank you. This was so much fun.
We'll see you on the book tour.
See you on the book tour.
Can't wait. See you all next week.
Thank you, Becca.
Good to meet you. Bye, guys.